I have waited all year for this. I have struggled and stumbled, trying to get water on this property so I can plant the first tree and begin my orchard. I don't have water yet, but I have made significant progress because I installed a metal building to collect rainwater. I want to share a little bit about the background that led to this decision first. Then I'll share all the progress of the slab and the building. And last, I'll share the costs that I've already incurred, as well as the future expected costs in order to get the rainwater collection in place. When I bought the property last year, I knew there was a regional water supplier in the area. My next door neighbor has been hooked up to it for years, so I never thought it would be a problem getting water on the property for my trees. Boy, was I wrong. I was dumbfounded when I called the regional water supplier and they told me they don't have the capacity to take me on. I never considered that as a potential outcome. They went on to tell me about the size of the pipe that's running past my property and how they're at capacity for that size pipe. The only way to change that would be to install a larger pipe, and there were no plans to upgrade it. Of course, they said, I could get it upgraded by footing the bill myself. When I asked about how much, they said, oh, around $200,000. What? There goes that option for water. Not a big deal, I thought, as I could always install a well. I'm sure several neighbors in the area have wells out here in the country, and there are several ranches nearby. I called every well company in the area. Every one. They all agreed the well would be about 700 feet deep. Some companies said it was too far. Some companies said it was very deep and they didn't have the equipment to drill it. One company never called me back. But the two companies that I managed to get a quote from said it would cost an estimated $40,000. What the well? That's cheaper than the water supplier's $200,000, but still. Finally, I decided I'm going to collect my own rainwater. For $40,000, I can get a brand new metal building, all the collection equipment, and install irrigation for less than $40,000. On top of that, the water's then free and it's better water. It took several months to find a good concrete company and get the slab installed. It rained for longer than usual for Central Texas, which kept the ground very soft. The original location I picked for the building was almost 900 feet from the road, so that's a lot of squishy ground for a concrete truck to drive on. So I waited until it dried up, which is inevitable in the dry Texas summers. The slab is not under the whole building. This overhang is over the ground. I saved a little money on the slab, but also, originally this building was going to be smaller. When I noticed the minor cost difference, I decided to add the overhang. I purchased the metal building from a nationwide company that I won't mention because I don't necessarily recommend them. They were okay, but they were a supplier. The manufacturer was a separate company with terrible reviews, and the installers were regional subcontractors. It was a calculated risk that turned out well for me. The building is 20 by 25 for the enclosed area, which is 500 square feet, the size of a nice studio in New York City. The roof area is 44 by 25, 1,100 square feet. 1 square foot of roof can collect 0.6 gallons of water for every 1 inch of rainfall, so this roof will collect 660 gallons for every inch of rain. The roof is 14.5 feet tall at the peak, down to 10 feet tall on the ends, so I could have space for overhead storage. Besides using the building for collecting rainwater, I'll make use of the indoor space to keep my beekeeping equipment here, so I don't need to haul it back and forth from my house. I'll eventually have electricity and lights installed, so it can be a work area for assembling hives, and have a freezer, which is required for beekeeping. The overhangs will be great for taking a break from the hot Texas sun, and also will likely be where I'm filling pots with soil and keeping my potted fruit trees that need protection from the sun. Let me break down the costs of what I've done so far, which is the land clearing, the slab, the building, and the gutters. Luckily, the land clearing was $0 for me. There were no trees in the way, but the grass was shoulder high. I met my neighbor down the road one time when I was packing up my beekeeping stuff, and they graciously offered to mow a path to my beehives. When they did that, they noticed the markers I laid out for the slab and decided to mow all around that area too. It's so nice to have nice neighbors, and I'm very glad to have met them. The slab itself is 32 by 25, and the total cost was $7,300, just over $9 per square foot. This might be on the high side. I don't have a lot of experience here, but also I had trouble finding a concrete company that I can trust in this rural area. The reviews for the metal building manufacturer were not great, but the negative reviews were really about the scheduling and not about the building quality, so I was okay gambling on them for the price. It was $9,750 total for the building, including the $1,550 down payment. The price includes installation, so I thought it was more than fair if they actually did the job well. I recently purchased the gutters at a big box store for $233, which includes the gutters themselves, the end caps, seam connectors, gutter drop, screws, sealant, and gutter hangers. The next part of my plan is to install the water storage tanks and connect them to my gutters. I plan on purchasing 4 tanks that hold 2,500 gallons each and connect them together. Tanks run about $1 per gallon of storage, but that can vary depending on the size of the tank. I found that the smallest tanks, a few hundred gallons each, and the largest tanks, 5,000 gallons and above, are typically the more expensive ones, running over $1 per gallon. That sweet spot seems to be the 2,500 gallon tanks, which I can find for under $1 per gallon. That means 4 of those tanks is going to cost me just under $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money for just a big plastic container, but luckily my water conservation district offers a grant. They'll reimburse me $1 for every gallon of capacity installed to collect rainwater up to $5,000. By installing more than 5,000 gallons, I can take advantage of the full amount of the grant. I expect to spend another $300 to $400 on various pieces of PVC to connect the gutters to the tanks and the tanks to each other, as well as a first flush system to keep the water relatively clean. I'm unsure about the cost that I'll incur for the pieces that happen after the water collection system, namely the pressure tank and water pump, if I even need them. The irrigation costs are going to be ongoing as I expand the orchard and plant new trees, so I haven't even calculated those either. I may not have water yet, but I'm thrilled to have completed this major milestone. I can't wait to install the tanks and collect rainwater over the next several months so I can be ready to irrigate the trees that I plant in the spring. If you don't want to miss the next parts of the install, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Faewood Acres.